All right, you're listening to Idle Chatter with Average Jeff. Hey, how are you out there? This is Idle Chatter with Average Jeff. Everybody doing good? I hope so. So we're back with another podcast. I'm so excited about this one. I want to welcome back my co-host T. She's with us. She can't always be here because she is super, super busy, but I'm glad she's here for this one. And for the first time, let's welcome our creative director. This is the first time she's ever been on one of these things. So let's give her a big shout out to Maddie, our creative director. So say hello.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, how are you? So glad
great.
you could be here. And it's a special episode, correct?
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is. So if you know anything about me,
you should by now.
You should by now, I hope so. I love horror movies. Love them to death. All summer long, we wanted to do a podcast about horror movies. We had to wait till it's fall season. So everything pumpkin spice, which I despise. Maybe we can do a whole thing about pumpkin spice. I'm sick of it. But I love the fall. I love the weather, the leaves turning. The
Yes.
weather gets better, doesn't it?
Yes.
Sweater weather.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Football.
Scary movies.
Scary movies.
Haunted houses.
Haunted
Halloween.
houses. Yes.
Costumes. Yes.
Costumes. What are you dressing up this year, T? Are you?
Nah, I don't think so.
No?
I'll probably be traveling for work.
Gotcha.
So I probably won't. I'll probably get home and be too tired to do anything, but I will be passing out candy at home.
Nice. You're going to do that.
Yes.
Is this the first year? Because I know you're before, I mean, you've been on your own and stuff, but in an apartment. This is your
Yes.
first house.
Yes, I'm so excited to decorate the house for Halloween. I'm buying decorations everywhere I go. So
Nice.
it's gonna be great.
Are you going to be stingy with the candy, or are you going to give the good
No,
stuff?
I want to be the house that has the full candy bars. So
You want people to come back, change their costumes, and come back to your house.
Well, yeah, that would be great.
Yeah. When I was growing up, there was a neighbor down the street, and to get into their house, their parents would do this like haunted basement thing. So you went into their house and went through their basement. They had kind of a haunted house thing to get your candy, and it was awesome. They did it every year. Of course, nowadays I don't think you can do that.
No, definitely not.
No, that's the kind of stuff that
Just
nobody
lead
can do.
kids into your basement.
Yeah, it was a simpler time. It was. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you shouldn't be allowed to do that. And it sucks that you can't. So anyway, we're not just going to talk about horror movies. The three of us have came up with 20 of kind of our favorite horror movies.
Yeah.
Suspense movies, thriller movies, I'd say. And we could have came up with more, but we had to pick 20 movies that all three of us have seen.
Wasn't
Yes.
easy.
No,
It wasn't easy.
It was not easy because Jeff
No.
here has seen every movie ever.
Wow.
Every horror movie in every genre.
Probably
and
close,
he has
yeah.
just really, really intricate taste in horror movies. I would say very refined taste in horror movies.
And by that, T means bad
I'm
taste.
being nice about it.
I know.
Very
Yeah.
refined, just different from my own. So
Yeah.
he has just these crazy matchups that we just. Would you
Yeah.
agree?
Yeah, and you do have the advantage of time on your side.
Oh, you mean I'm old
A
and
little.
unemployed?
Well, she didn't say that.
Nah, it's fine. I get it. It's the truth. It's not like it's not. So yeah, but I'm committed. I mean, the other night, you're not going to believe this. I watched a movie called The Banana Splits, and it was based on the old TV show that you two are too young to know. But they turned it into a horror movie, and it was pretty good. It was really decent, for like these big animated animatronic like things that you would see at like Chuck E. Cheese. There's a reference you two would get.
Yeah.
So assume that those Chuck E. Cheese things came to life and started murdering the kids.
Oh.
That's
wow.
what this movie was, and it was glorious.
And you wonder why I don't eat bananas.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, we are going to call this episode, we came up with a name. Actually, my creative director came up with this.
Tournament of Terror.
Oh, the Tournament of Terror. I kind of screwed that up. Say it one more time.
The Tournament of Terror.
Ooh.
Spooky.
Yeah, spooky. So we have 20 movies. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and list the 20. I'm not. Creative director.
You want me to list
Yeah,
them?
Maddie, let's have you list the 20 movies we are going to go. And just list them by the pairs, because that's how we're going to kind of do them.
Okay, first we have Hush versus A Quiet Place. Next, Shutter Island versus Silence of the Lambs.
Pause. I would just like to interject and say that our wonderful host here was really reluctant to put Shutter Island.
It took a lot of convincing.
It
Yes.
did. Okay. All right. But it's on the list.
Yes.
We had to fight for this.
You did.
So,
Yeah, I cried like a little bitch to try not get that on there, but it's on there. So,
Then next, going up against each other, The Mist versus Carrie. Amityville Horror versus The Conjuring.
that's going to be a good one.
Yes. Last House on the Left versus Hard Candy. Ooh. That'll be interesting. Poltergeist versus Insidious. The Burbs versus Lost Boys. Us versus The First Purge.
And see, that goes to show you right there that I will talk about new horror movies and watch new horror movies.
That's true.
How old is us? 2 years old?
It came out this
Last-
year, didn't it? Or
You
last
should
year?
be proud of me because
It
usually
came out
I watch.
recently.
I usually watch crap from
Very
the
new.
70s or 80s.
yes, he does.
Okay, keep going. I'm sorry, Maddie.
House of a Thousand Corpses versus Evil Dead 2.
My favorite.
One with Bruce Campbell.
Gotta throw Bruce Campbell in there.
Yes.
Yes.
And last but not least, the original Halloween from 1978 versus the first Scream movie.
I think this is going to be good. Now, remember, because if you're going to listen to this podcast, somebody's going to go, why didn't you pick? Look, we had to pick 20 movies that the three of us have seen, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So that becomes a little tougher, because once again, I have no life. I have no job. I watch horror movies way too much. You two have lives, promising careers. And-
Hopefully, fingers crossed over here.
yeah. Till they hear this. So, hey, I want to say one thing. These movies on here, there's one thing I noticed. Do you know what actor is represented the most on this list?
Let's see. Somebody play the Jeopardy theme song.
Patrick Wilson.
Bingo.
Woo!
Patrick Wilson.
Yes.
He was in Hard Candy, Insidious, and The Conjuring.
Wow. Yes, he was. I remember.
Yeah. And another thing, I'm going to go ahead and say it. I have kind of a man crush on Patrick Wilson.
No, not kind of.
Kind
not
of?
kind of, y'all. A
Well,
full-blown man
I'm
crush.
not ready to give up my marriage on him or anything like that. But hey, he's a good-looking guy. He is.
Yes.
You know,
I don't disagree.
Thank you. Most people go Ryan Reynolds, but Patrick Wilson is
He's decent.
He's
I'll give you
probably
that.
more a decent guy. And I've shown you music videos. He sings in a band called the
Yeah.
Van Wilsons. He's
Yeah.
great.
That's true.
Yeah. So
All around.
yeah. Of course, when we talk about him in Hard Candy, it's gonna be like, yeah, he's a creepoid.
We don't know that Patrick Wilson.
Yeah, we hope nobody knows that Patrick Wilson. So, all right. So anyway, before we get started, I got to do some shameless plugs. So Idle Chatter with Average Jeff, you can follow us on Twitter at Idle Chat Podcast. And notice T, I did not go capital I, lowercase d, L-E, blah, dee, blah, blah, blah.
You're learning good.
I'm trying. I'm learning. I practiced this for like an hour standing in front of the mirror, microphone in hand and everything. I'm kidding. So Facebook, you can also check us out on Facebook at the Idle Chatter with Average Jeff. Please check out my website, averagejeff.net. It doesn't really have much to do with the podcast, but I write a lot of funny little blogs. There's lots of cool stuff on my website. And you know, Daddy here needs the money, so please check out my
please
website.
Visit the website.
Please. And I think sooner than later, T, I'm going to have some sponsors. So we're going to start maybe earning a little bit of bucks on this thing.
Whoa,
Yeah.
my lifelong dream.
Yeah. Exactly. So let's get started, right? I'm kind of
Okay.
excited.
Yes, let's
So
do it.
the first one, like Maddie said, Hush versus A Quiet Place. And we kind of had categories for this first round, these first 10 battles. Hush, I don't even know how to say this. They're newer films, and they deal with people with disabilities, right?
Yeah.
Correct? Hush is about a woman in a secluded cabin, and she's deaf, totally deaf, and there's a stalker. A Quiet Place deals with all these alien kind of monster things, and everybody has to be very quiet.
It's like
and
The daughter.
They're
is
both-
the
deaf.
daughter is completely deaf,
I
and
think they're both movies about people having to survive in an environment with one less of their senses. Like they're missing one of their senses.
That's a very good.
In Quiet Place, they can't make sound. They can't
Correct.
talk to
Yeah.
each other. And in Hush, she can't hear.
She can't hear at all, and she's alone. And there's a
Yeah.
guy stalking her. If anybody has never seen Hush, yeah, it's about a woman. She's a deaf woman, an adult woman. She's at a cabin all by herself. Nobody's there, and there's this intruder, and he's trying to get in and kill her for no other reason than that's just what he's trying to do. And it's a pretty intense movie. A Quiet Place, I think everybody that's going to hear this podcast knows. It's got John Krasinski from The Office, another guy, super awesome. His first foray into horror movies, and it's Emily Blunt. And like I said, it's about a family, and they have to be super quiet because otherwise the monsters will hear them and come eat their faces off. So,
Pretty intense.
what are our thoughts on this? Let's start with Maddie. What do you think between these two?
This is a hard one. All the other
That's what she
categories, I
said.
feel like there is a clear winner, but this one is really tough.
I want to interrupt and just say the same thing, that when I looked at these two, I was like, I don't know what I'm going to pick.
I feel like I'm leaning more towards Hush right now,
Okay.
just because she's alone, and it's so intense. Like, A Quiet Place is scary, but I feel like it doesn't have you on the edge of your seat as much as Hush does. You know what I mean?
I got you.
Yeah.
What about you, T? What are your thoughts on that?
I'm definitely gonna have to go with A Quiet Place, just because
Okay.
I just love a movie with a good story, and I feel like the story in that movie, like when at the end, well, can I spoil it? Should I spoil it?
You know what? Spoiler alert. 5, 4. Shut your damn radios off or whatever if you don't want to
Plug
hear
your
this.
ears.
Plug your ears. 3, 2, 1, go.
When the child finally makes the connection about the hearing aids and the sound, it's like the whole story just comes together, and they are able to
say when John Krasinski dies.
Oh, well, I mean,
What?
but I just love a good story and a good wrap up, and I feel like Hush, it was just a bunch of intensity, and it's like, of course we know she's going to prevail, because it's like movies don't really have bad endings.
Well, the ones I do, but you're right. It had to go that way.
Mainstream movies don't have bad endings.
That's true.
And
I'd say Hush was more an independent. I don't know about him being a mainstream.
well,
but
I feel like once something is popular on Netflix, it becomes
Okay.
mainstream.
Yeah, that
because
makes
it was
sense.
that's how I found out about it through social media, because people were like, watch this movie on Netflix, watch this movie on Netflix.
Yeah.
So I feel like once something takes off on Netflix, it becomes mainstream.
Yeah.
What do you think, Maddie?
About the mainstream?
Yeah, do you think?
Yeah, I
You agree with that?
It's like
mainstream.
Netflix is everywhere. So.
it is. Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely have to go with A Quiet Place.
You're going to Quiet Place. Maddie,
and
you're doing
I just
Hush.
like that it had more characters.
That's true. Yeah, Hush was a very minimalistic, and there's some really great horror movies. That's one thing about the genre of horror is you don't have to have a huge budget. Hush is one of those movies. I'm not going to say yet. I'm still thinking. That's why I'm trying to delay this as much as possible. But Hush proves you don't need a huge budget to make a great, intense, scary.
Right.
There's
Oh,
no
my goodness.
CGI. There's the main character who is deaf. There's the protagonist who's just this crazy guy, and there's a few minor characters that come to the house to kind of
And
intervene.
it's even more scary because that's something that could actually happen
Yeah.
in real life.
That's why I was leaning towards Hush, because to me the things that I guess things like A Quiet Place could happen, but Hush is one of those that could really, 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 really happen.
It's more likely to happen to
It
you.
is more
yeah.
likely to happen. But so, all right, so Maddie is picking Hush.
I'm picking A Quiet
T's going
Place.
to Quiet Place, so I'm going to be
You're
the
the tiebreaker.
Oh shit! I
Well,
didn't
you
want
already said that Hush is your choice.
Well, no, I didn't know. Honestly, this is the one category. Everything else, I'm going to argue. I don't want to stall. I got to spit something out because I've seen them both. To me, good quality movies are ones you want to watch over and over. They make you feel something. I'll say this. I cried a few times in A Quiet Place because there was just some better moments that
when
got
John
me.
Krasinski,
I definitely
Yeah.
cried at the end. I
when
almost
Jim
died.
from
I
The
did
Office,
almost die.
excuse me, he
Yeah.
died.
When Jim Albert died.
When Jim Halpert died, Pam
So
was like,
sad.
it was so sad. Dwight's like, yes, Halpert's dead. I'm going to go A Quiet Place.
Okay,
And that was the tough one for me because honestly, when we made this list a couple days ago, I had no idea.
Yeah.
So, all right.
Yeah,
so
me
in that
either.
one,
I'm thinking on the spot here.
yeah.
So I'm just gonna let everybody know. For some of these, I might not remember the movie.
That's okay.
I might say, I don't think I should discuss some of them because I really don't.
We'll try to jog your memory the best we can,
I've
and the
watched
things
them.
that,
I just some of them.
Okay, but that might be a good perspective, T, because like
Every
if
movie's not memorable.
But if you're like, okay, I don't remember that one at all, then maybe it's like, okay, well, I don't remember it. It didn't make an impression on me, but this one made a little bit of an impression on me. So hence,
okay,
maybe that's there's nothing wrong with that.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm trying to boost your confidence and
Thank
not make
you.
it sound like you're so, incapable of this or whatever. Like, I'm kidding.
All right, next we
Yes,
have
what do we have next?
Shutter Island versus Silence of the Lambs.
This one's easy for me, but
Well, okay,
Let's
we know
go.
what you're gonna say,
yeah, so.
but I just want to start by saying, well, one, we already discussed it. It was really hard to get him to pick Shutter Island, but we finally convinced him by saying that they're both psychological thrillers.
Yes.
Here's another thing. They're both based on books.
Yes.
Silence of the Lambs is based on a novel by Thomas Harris, who also wrote... I'm trying to throw some real
Something.
cool... Yeah. Red Dragon.
Oh.
Silence of the Lambs and Hannibal,
Oh.
if you know about Hannibal Lecter. And Shutter Island is based on a novel. I did read it. For the life of me, I can't remember,
Who wrote it?
two people in this room that could probably look that up if they wanted to. Anybody want to look up who wrote Shutter Island while we discuss this? Yeah, somebody's going to do it. Okay, so while we're looking it up, T, what do you think about these two?
I definitely have to go with Silence of the Lambs. It was just on another level. That Shutter Island, like, shocked the hell out of me. Like,
It did.
I was very salty, but
Dennis Lehane.
Dennis Lehane,
Yeah.
novel by Dennis Lehane, and it's a good book.
yeah, and I liked Shutter Island. I really did like it, but Silence of the Lambs was just a different. It's the guy's so creepy.
Hannibal Lecter.
Yes, he.
Oh, and the Tooth Fairy or Buffalo. Yeah,
Yes.
Buffalo Bill.
Yes, it's just so unnerving, and it's a very good psychological thriller. So I'm gonna go with Silence of the Lambs.
I'm going Silence of the Lambs too. I'll say Shutter Island had a really good what the f.
Yes.
Shutter
ending.
Island didn't have a chance with you.
It didn't. But so I'm going Silence of the Lambs. I just love, and it's an Oscar-winning film. That's why some people kind of say they don't want to taint it by saying it is a horror movie, but it's a freaking horror movie. But because it won an Oscar, we're like, no, it's a psychological thriller. But
Very gory.
I just showed you. I collect Funko Pops, and they have a Hannibal Lecter Funko Pop. They don't have a Shutter Island Funko Pop. Nobody sells
Yet.
Shutter Island,
Oh
please.
Yet.
Well, the Leonardo
would
DiCaprio
love a
head would
Leonardo
be
DiCaprio.
way too big because his head's
And
too
it would
big
just
for-
fall over.
It'd fall over.
I was
It's a big
definitely gonna
bobblehead.
say I would love a Leonardo DiCaprio Funko.
I know what to get you for Christmas if that's what they have. Okay, so we have two Silence of the Lambs, but we still got to hear what Maddie says about them because you've seen both films and
I love a movie with a good ending. Like an ending can make or break a movie for me. And I loved the ending of Shutter Island. Like we still refer to endings of movies as like they Shutter Islanded it
we do.
because it was just so iconic.
If it's so iconic or so
I've never-
ambiguous,
I've never said
me
that.
and
No, that's-
Maddie do
that's
that.
just an
Oh, I
us
was
thing.
about to say
It's a us
people
thing.
don't say that.
No.
We say they Shutter
just
Island
us.
that. We just say it about TV shows.
Oh,
we
Yeah,
say it
like
about
if they like
movies.
leave it on like a huge cliffhanger. But
If you leave a bag of groceries at Kroger and you drive home without them, maybe that's not the same thing. But so you're going? You pick
No,
Shutter
no,
Island?
no.
no.
you didn't
Ooh.
let me finish.
Ooh, that's what she
But-
said.
Throw in one more.
But Silence of the Lambs was just such a good movie that I have to pick Silence of the Lambs.
Wow. Okay.
I know.
What was her
just
name?
Surprising.
Clarice
Clarice
Starling.
Starling.
Yeah, when he told her the story about the lambs, that's when I knew that this movie was about to be wild.
Yeah. And everybody says the book's better than the movie. In this case, it really is.
Always.
That book is.
The book is always better than the movie.
No, not Breakfast at Tiffany's. That was a terrible book.
Okay.
Oh, I wouldn't know. I haven't read that.
Yeah, any of the Tom Harris, the Hannibal Lecter trilogies, Red Dragon is still one of the scariest books. Like I'm kind of jaded in the fact that you watch all this stuff, you get kind of numb to it. But if I read Red Dragon, I make sure the doors are locked. I'm
Right.
yeah,
You're
it still creeps you out.
anxious
Yeah,
and
it
nervous.
gets you kind of creepy. Okay, so A Quiet Place beat Hush, Silence of the Lambs beat Shutter Island. All right, what do we got next? What's coming up next there?
The Mist versus Carrie.
Now, two Stephen Kings, correct? We could have done It. That would have been the safe bet. So, we're not going to do... Yeah. We're going a little old school. We're going The Mist and Carrie. Now, which Carrie are we doing? We doing the original or are we doing the remake? Or does it matter?
I don't think it matters.
I've seen both.
Yeah.
I just thought, for viewers, what we should do, whether it's the remake with...
Let's say the original.
We'll say the original?
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine, because that's a great film. So, all right, that's what we're going to do. We're doing The Mist versus Carrie. Now, I think I'll go first on this one. Yeah, let me go first. I do like Carrie. It's got some great underlying themes. It's pretty cool. And in the original, John Travolta's in it, along with Sissy Spacek. I don't remember who anybody else. But I'm also not a teenage girl, so I didn't identify with it. But it's still, But The Mist. To me, The Mist was another movie that I didn't just cry, but that ending, I'm going to say it, people out there in podcast land, I bawled. And I'm a horrible father, too, because, I let people watch it and stuff. And let's hear your experience with this movie, with The Mist.
So, I'm just going to say I didn't like the ending of either of these movies. And The Mist, particularly, I guess it wasn't a bad ending. I just was not expecting it.
Did it ruin your life?
It totally ruined my life.
It was a what the F.
It was a
Did
what
you cry?
the F moment. I bawled my eyes out.
I
He told me we're watching a horror movie. It was scary all the way through. And then we get to the end. And if you've seen it, you know what happens. And it was the last thing I expected. I cried so hard.
I cry every time I see it, and I know. And it's just the performances in it. Here's a little, if you haven't seen it for a while, I don't remember who produced it, but go back and watch it, and you see a lot of people that were in the first 4 or 5 episodes of The Walking Dead. And the main character, the guy that takes his son into the grocery store, is Thomas Jane, who was the Punisher for one movie. He does a lot of, you and me and I were discussing this. Thomas Jane was in another adaptation of a Stephen King movie on Netflix. What's the title? I don't remember.
1922?
Is that a good film?
Is that what it was called?
I believe it was.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, 1922. That was, whoa.
Okay.
Stephen King is just the GOAT author for me.
Yeah.
I just love him. He's my favorite author. I've read a lot of his books.
I'm reading It now for the first time.
Yeah.
It's really good.
I have not read that one.
When I'm done with it, you can borrow it.
Thank you.
It's this thick.
Oh, yeah. I will blow right through that.
Okay, so me and Maddie have both picked The Mist.
Right? Yeah.
I'm picking The Mist.
Okay.
It's your turn, T.
I already knew The Mist.
Over Carrie?
And
Okay.
Yeah, and I heard a lot of what Maddie was saying, and I agree.
Gotcha.
It's like but it was still scary. It was still scary during the high energy moments of it. It was scary.
The Mist?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the ending, it's like wow, great.
Did you
acting.
cry?
Yes. Oh yeah.
On The Mist?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't want us to feel like we're pansies or something
No.
here. That
No, I had to think about it. I had to
Yeah.
think about the ending. Yeah.
it still gets me.
Yeah, I can't.
And it's sad and as messed up as it is, it's one of the best endings in a movie because Maddie said it. You nailed it. You do not see that coming. And
Dad
then
and the son fought so hard.
and then and they did. They always talk about bad decisions in horror movies. I don't think that was a bad decision, what he decided to do.
Right.
It sucked for the irony that happened 5 seconds later.
Yeah.
But, what would you do for family? And that's one of the biggest ultimate sacrifices you would do for your family. Oh, and it so backfired on them. But God dang, that is a movie. All right, so The Mist kicked its ass.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to introduce this one. The Amityville Horror versus The Conjuring. Now, Amityville Horror. Are we doing the original or are we doing the Ryan Reynolds version?
Ryan Reynolds.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm
that's
gonna
fine.
have to go Ryan Reynolds as
That's
well.
fine. So, hey, here's a battle. We have the Amityville Horror starring Ryan Reynolds versus The Conjuring starring Patrick Wilson.
So it's really just a battle of Ryan Reynolds versus Patrick Wilson, right?
It depends. I mean,
Well, you got me there. No, I'm kidding.
if my wife was here, she'd be like, we're going Ryan Reynolds. And I'm like, no way, we're going Patrick Wilson. And then she's like, but that would mean you want to sleep with Patrick Wilson. And I'd be like, well, we'll talk about that. So, I'm kidding.
You're not kidding. This is not the first time he's made a joke like that, everybody.
It's not a joke. I'm kidding.
He's not kidding.
I want him on the show sometime. So let's not creep him out and think like we're going to kidnap him and keep him in the basement or something.
We're not going to hard candy you.
Yes, Patrick, you can come on the show and you can talk about the movie, but we will not hard candy you. Okay, so Amityville versus The Conjuring. Who wants to start? Go ahead, Maddie, start.
Amityville Horror.
Okay, why?
I don't know. It was just an impulse decision.
Okay.
Ryan Reynolds.
Is that why?
I mean, it's just part
of the reason.
But
Okay.
actually, I don't know because they're both really good movies. That was really like an extremely impulsive decision.
This one's kind of hauntings and possessions and deals with
they're
demons.
both,
That's
like,
why we picked these kind of both.
like demonic possessions.
Yeah.
And they're both like based on true stories. Ed and Lorraine Warren explored both of these cases.
That's a great. Thank you. That's why she's our creative director, T, because she remembers this stuff that
I'm just I can't help it. I'm great.
Yeah. No arguments, I guess.
None for me.
Somebody else pick because I need a minute to think.
Okay, let's see.
And if you're not ready, I know. So I mean, but if you're good, go, ladies first.
I'm definitely gonna have to go with Amityville Horror.
Wow.
Just because I watched Amityville Horror a long time ago, but the movie is still so clear in my mind. I watched The Conjuring when it came out. It came out in 2013, I want to say.
Very well.
I want to say it came out years ago, and it's like I don't really remember the ending of that. And I've seen all of the movies, in the series, I guess you would call them.
Yeah, it's a whole universe.
It's like they're just like kind of all the same to me. They're good. They're not bad, but they're just kind of all the same to me and not very memorable. But Amityville Horror,
You're going to Amityville?
Yeah, that movie's scary.
Okay. Well, let me pick one because I'm going to go Conjuring.
Okay.
And I love the Amityville. The thing about Amityville is, it dealt with the kind of demonic possession in Ryan Reynolds' character as George Lutz and stuff, and he becomes obsessed, and then but it became, towards the end, it became so big blockbuster-ish with everything, and I just kind of got a little bit turned off with it, but I love the performance of everything in the movie. I do love the movie, but The Conjuring, to me, was a little scarier. I will admit, I'm like you. But it also had who played Lorraine Lauren. I can't think of her name.
Farmiga girl.
She is
Farmiga
so
Vera
pretty, and she's such a great person.
Vera,
and those two
Vera Farmiga,
to play Ed and Lorraine Lauren, they had great chemistry together.
Yeah.
Yes.
But so The Conjuring, I love. The Conjuring 2, I really love about the Edenfield. I believe it's Edenfield or Edenfield Poltergeist. Once they started doing the Annabelles and the Nuns and all the other spin-offs, it got watered down and it started to suck.
Yeah,
but The
that
Conjuring,
last Annabelle was a wash.
It was. I'm going to pick The Conjuring. So, T is going Amityville.
Back to me.
Average, what's my name? Average Jeff. The Conjuring. So, you're the tiebreaker.
I've decided why I'm picking Amityville Horror.
Okay, why?
I watched it. When I first watched it, I was just drawn into it. The Conjuring, I liked the movie, but I just watched it and that was it. The Amityville Horror, I started like researching and all that. And I mean, I've always like been so interested in like ghost stories and like haunted places and stuff. But The Conjuring is like, I just had no interest in looking that up.
Right, understandable.
And Amityville Horror, it just sucked me in. It was like I had to know more.
Yeah, going to the Wikipedia page.
Yes.
And I watched, I liked the film The Conjuring better, but I never did look up the real life stuff. I've never read stuff about, but I started watching all the documentaries on the Amityville Horror. Yeah, there's some great stuff out there, whether you believe it or not. But yeah, okay, so Amityville beats it.
Right.
I'm not upset about that one. I mean, that was a good pick. That was
Ryan
good.
Reynolds won.
All right, so next we have The Last House on the Left versus Hard Candy. This category, what do these two films have in common? They're very brutal revenge type flicks. They deal with some very strong, I mean, let's face it, Last House on the Left, it's a very intense movie. It deals with rape and murder and what would you do to get revenge on stuff. And I'm pretty sure we're talking about the remake of Last House on the Left.
Yes.
I doubt you two have seen the original.
Nah.
Okay. All right. I'll save that for, somebody else. And then Hard Candy. Hard Candy is a film that had Patrick Swayze.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace, Patrick Swayze. Yeah, Patrick Swayze's in Hard Candy and he dances and was it Ellen Page?
Yes.
Okay. And it deals with some very intense things. Patrick Wilson basically plays a pedophile, correct?
Yes. No,
Yeah.
he definitely plays a pedophile.
Yeah, he plays a pedophile. He's an online predator and
yes. Trying to
he
solicit
believes
a young girl.
Yeah, he believes he's meeting up with Ellen Page's
14?
character, who is, she's definitely underage. And then it turns into when they get back to her place, or his place.
His place.
Yes.
His place.
Yes.
And she turns the tables on him, and it gets really intense.
Yeah.
The cool thing about that,
Screwdriver.
yeah. And then she's going to castrate him kind of thing. And
Yes.
it's a very intense film. It's not bloody. From what I remember, it's very intense. It's very story driven. It's mainly two people telling a drama.
Mm-hmm.
It's so superbly acted. Last House on the Left is, I remember, I think one time you watched it because somebody was concerned that you might go out and start dating and stuff. And it was like, you need to watch this film to know what the world's like, correct?
Yes.
Yes. All right. So
Harsh.
who wants to start with this one?
I'll start.
Okay.
I'm definitely going to go Hard Candy because I just love the fact that he was being a pedophile and then the tables got turned on him.
Yeah.
And I feel like Ellen Page did so well in that role. And to be that young.
Yeah.
She is a monster talent,
Yes.
isn't she?
Yes, she is.
Oh, Lord. And I'm thinking this was before Juno, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Wasn't
Yeah,
Juno like
yeah.
her kind of big breakout thing?
Yeah.
Hard
so
Candy?
She was young in this movie.
She's very young, but very mature, and she played that part. And
Yeah.
Patrick Wilson,
she owned Patrick Wilson.
she did, but you believed him. And the thing about it, he didn't look like a creepy pedophile. He's still a decent looking dude, and he played this charming kind of charismatic. Okay, forget my man crush on him. But what I'm getting at, when you think pedophile, you think an old fat uncle with a handful of candy in a panel van, right? You don't think of somebody like that.
Well,
And it was just, that made it creepier, I think.
yeah, I kind of see that. I don't put anything past anybody these days, but I see where you're coming from. You don't expect somebody who is conventionally attractive
Yeah.
to be interested in kids because I guess people would reason
Yeah.
they shouldn't have a problem connecting with people their own age.
No,
So
it just,
okay.
he didn't seem like what I would have pictured as a.
He's Patrick Wilson, right?
Yeah. What about you, Maddie?
I'm going to
I need
go
a second.
Hard Candy because, one, it has Patrick Wilson and Ellen Page. And I like the story better.
Okay.
And Last House on the Left was just,
Too much?
it was hard to watch. But Hard Candy, it was, I don't want to say brutal. It was intense, but I didn't have to turn my head or bite my nails while watching it.
Okay.
So I'm definitely going Hard Candy.
I guess it doesn't matter what I pick
Because
because Hard Candy's
win.
going to win.
But we have to know.
Yeah. I think in this case, I I've seen Hard Candy, I think, now 3 times. I've seen Last House on the Left twice. And there's some just great moments in the remake of The Last House on the Left.
Yeah.
Like when the daughter comes back and they, the family realizes what's happening. And that, if you remember, there's such an intense scene because her dad is a doctor. And he's like, I got to examine her. And he means examine her to see if she was raped or not. And then they've got to like take bullets out of her and stuff. And that, as a father, that got me. I'm going to pick Last House on the Left, and I'm going to agree with Maddie. That one, was hard to watch, but sometimes that kind of needs to happen in horror movies.
Yeah.
You don't want to just sit there and eat your popcorn and scream because it looks fake. Some of them need to be brutal without being. This one wasn't like torture porn brutal,
Right.
but
like
it was
I
brutal.
spit on your grave.
Yeah.
It wasn't I spit on your grave.
Nah, it wasn't. Okay, so I picked Last House on the Left, but Hard Candy wins, correct?
Yep.
Alrighty. So next, one of my favorites of all time movies is here. So you want to talk about them?
Poltergeist versus Insidious.
Oh yeah. And Maddie, I had her over one time, and we watched Poltergeist recently. I wrote 9 pages of notes. I was going to do a podcast on my own about Poltergeist.
Yeah.
And I drank a little bit of whiskey, and it turns out when I drink whiskey, I can analyze the crap out of films. So I'm very good at that.
Turns into an English professor.
I do turn into an English professor, and someday I will be an English professor.
Yes, he will.
Thank you. That's my goal.
Just minus the whiskey.
No, not minus the whiskey. I'll just.
You can drink a little bit, but
I'm getting really good at drinking whiskey. I'm not going to give that up, even
Just
if
do like a shot before class.
I just keep it in a
Just
cup.
a
No, but
shot.
yeah,
No
shot.
big deal.
Yeah.
Put it in a coffee cup.
Yeah, exactly.
never know.
Yeah. All right, so we're doing Poltergeist Insidious. So Insidious has Patrick Wilson in it, and it's a great story. It's a good movie. I'm going Poltergeist. I saw Poltergeist when it came out. I was 12 years old. I saw it in the theaters. I'd never seen a scary movie before. I'd seen like bits and pieces of Halloween, and that scared the crap out of me. But Poltergeist was the first real movie I saw in the theater. It scared me so much I couldn't sleep for like 2 days because I was scared of scared of sleeping by my closet.
wow.
And everything. I watched it again, and I love that movie. I still love that movie. I'm going Poltergeist. There's so many good things about Poltergeist. There's so many hidden things. There's great deep meanings. It's just, to me, it's one of the perfect films. And I'm so pissed off they remade it. Screw you, Hollywood.
Yeah, the remake's not great.
Yeah. So I'm going Poltergeist. Ladies?
Okay. I see that. I don't know. I watched Poltergeist. I know that I did. It's not very memorable for me, but there are some big moments in it that I do remember that are scary, so I understand. But I'm going to go with Insidious just because
It's fine.
Poltergeist came out. Poltergeist is an old movie. Let's just put it like that. And I'm younger, and Insidious came out during my childhood, my growing up. So it's kind of like it is for you, like a nostalgia thing.
Insidious had the effect on you that Poltergeist had on me.
Yes.
Okay, I get that.
That's
So that
the
makes
tweet.
sense. Okay. Here you go. You're the tiebreaker.
I'm the tiebreaker.
Now,
Again.
I'm not trying to sway your thing, but Insidious has no great memorable lines, but Poltergeist has, "They're here," and "This house is clean."
I already know what I'm picking.
All right.
Insidious is a great movie. And it has Patrick Wilson, right?
Yes, it does. And I can't think of an Australian actress plays his wife in this movie.
Yeah.
I can't think of
I
her
don't
name.
know.
I know she was in Neighbors.
Yeah.
She's so awesome. I just
Yeah.
can't think of her name.
I don't know, you might have just swayed my vote there. I guess I just gave it away.
Crap. Anybody want to look that up?
But
Yeah.
I feel like there's a lot of similarities between Poltergeist and Insidious. And I think that's because Poltergeist was such an iconic movie. Like, it paved the way for movies like Insidious. It was almost like the first of its kind. So because of that, I am picking Poltergeist.
I think that just because something is first does not make it better.
But
no,
not always.
You guys
but
said that it doesn't have a memorable moment. That tiptoe through the tulips.
Oh my gosh, that was so creepy.
Yeah,
okay, it did.
Yeah.
No, it's a great film. I just
But I'm gracious in defeat.
okay. Hey, here's the thing. If you're listening to this podcast, any one of these 20 films, they're on this list for a reason because they've made impacts on our life. And every film on here I've seen multiple times. I think, I don't know about you guys.
No, I haven't seen every film multiple times.
But, I mean, these are great picks. You're not going to go wrong with any of these. Just because we said Hush wasn't as good as A Quiet Place, you need to see Hush. It is one of the best horror movies to come out. I'd put it on my top 25 or 30 list.
And remember, it's just based on our opinions.
It's based on our opinions.
If you don't agree, that's fine.
Yeah, let the hate mail come. What do we care?
We don't.
Okay, so we're going we're going Poltergeist. Poltergeist over Insidious. Okay. I agree with you, T. If we would have voted in, I love Poltergeist, but I wouldn't have been so heartbroken if if you two would have picked Insidious. I wouldn't have.
Right, they're both a good.
They're both great movies.
I feel like they're both like my top, in my top favorite horror movies.
Both of them are?
Yeah.
Wow, that's cool. So next we have The Burbs versus Lost Boys. These are both kind of 80-ish movies. The Lost Boys I wouldn't call a comedy, but it's got some comedic moments, and we were trying to do a category where we were doing comedy horror. Maybe we should have done Beetlejuice. I don't know if all three of us have seen Beetlejuice.
T hasn't seen Beetlejuice.
I haven't. I started it, but I fell asleep.
Okay. Wow. So we're doing The Burbs versus Lost Boys.
I just fall asleep. I'll put a movie on, and I'll fully intend to watch it, and I'll wake up, and it'll be like, are you still watching?
Yeah. One thread that these two movies share is back in the 80s, there was two Coreys that were super, super popular. Corey Haim and Corey Feldman, the Coreys. Corey Feldman is in The Burbs, and he's in Lost Boys. So we could say this category is the Corey category or whatever.
Yeah.
I'll start this one. The Lost Boys is a good movie. I like it. When I was growing up, I liked horror movies, and a lot of people didn't. And The Lost Boys was one of those horror movies that it was so mainstream that all the cool kids and all the cheerleaders went and saw it, and everybody were like, oh, The Lost Boys and blah, blah, blah. Ooh. And I'm an Evil Dead fan and all that. And it was so popular that I almost screw you. I'd rather,
Vampires versus zombies.
Yeah, well, but The Lost Boys is a great movie, but The Burbs is one of my favorite movies of all time. Tom Hanks is just great in it.
Yes.
I'm going Burbs. I'm picking Burbs. It's just a classic. And no, it's not a horror movie, but if you're in the Halloween season, you need to watch it.
Yeah.
And I probably watch The Burbs in October. I know I watch it every year. Every year it's one of my top
picks. So how many
picks.
times have you seen it now?
I'd say 20 or plus.
Wow.
I'm talking Roadhouse numbers. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm picking The Burbs, so I'll let you two fight this out.
Do you want to go?
I'll go. I have to go with The Burbs because it's just a great movie. That's all there is to it.
Wow. You should write movie posters for
I
Hollywood.
Should. I really should.
You should go see it because it's a great movie.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've seen Lost Boys. I watched Lost Boys a while ago when I was younger. And The Burbs maybe a few years ago. And I remember both of them. And I don't know, this is hard because I like them for different reasons.
Right.
And I love vampires, in movies. So, but it's there's just something about The Lost Boys and that classic vampire story because vampires have evolved in media. Yeah. So I don't know. I'm going to have to say The Lost Boys.
Okay, so The Lost Boys. T goes with The Lost Boys, and nothing wrong with that. It loses this round, but...
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah. No, it's okay. It's one of them films, and it does still hold up. Some movies you go back and watch, and they're really dated. The practical effects in Lost Boys are good. It doesn't look... It's an older film, obviously, but it doesn't, It still resonates. It's still a great story.
Roots
There's great
of vampires.
And it's a good story. It's a great story.
Yeah.
So, okay. So, in that one, The Burbs beats The Lost Boys. All right, now we're going to come to the two new films. We're talking Us versus The First Purge. And by The First Purge, we do not mean the first Purge movie. We mean
The last Purge movie.
which
The
is
movie
called The First
called
Purge,
The
The
First
First Purge, which is, I think, fourth in the series. So this is kind of a modern take on horror movies, and it has a lot to do with society, the divisions in society and everything. So let's start with this one. Who wants to start here?
I'll start.
Okay.
I saw both of these films. The First Purge isn't very fresh in my mind because Us came out recently.
Okay.
But I just feel like Us had more of like a societal impact. The story of the movie and like, what would you call it? Like the moral of the movie.
Of Us?
Yes.
Yeah, there's some great themes and some great
the
things
themes.
about
There you go.
these people that dwell underground, and they're the
tethered.
The tethered, and they're how many
They're
people in
us.
America? Yeah, they are.
It's just it's mind blowing. So I'm gonna have to go with Us.
Okay.
I have to go with The First Purge. I actually wrote a paper on The First Purge. I actually wrote a paper on The First Purge for one of my sociology classes. It was really fun. About institutional racism. So, I don't know. The First Purge is just overall one of my favorite movies. Not just my favorite horror movie, but I just love that movie a lot. So, I'm going to say First Purge.
I watched Us for the first time a little, I think within the last week or two.
It was like
and
a few days ago.
Yeah, I really liked it, but some of the symbolism, I didn't figure out why they had the
scissors.
the gold. The only thing I can think is some people have silver spoons in their mouth, and then the tether down below had scissors to kind of mock them and stuff. The Hands Across America thing blew my mind at the end, and as much as I did like it, I'm gonna go The First Purge. One, because I just really like that series. There's so much to do with it. You could make other movies. You could do such. And The First Purge, to me, Us was one of those thinking man movies, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
But there's so much to absorb in it. And sometimes I just want to be entertained because I'm a dull-headed guy. I'm going to go First Purge.
That's
Us-
another thing about Us. You guys are probably tired of me saying it. I didn't like the ending. And it's like the whole movie, I really liked it. And then it got to the ending and I was just like, what just happened? Like,
It was pretty... What did they do to the ending? Did they Shutter Island it?
they did, actually. Yeah.
T's like, okay, so that's what you guys are talking about.
Well, I understood what
Yeah,
you all
okay.
meant.
Yeah. Because I feel like they could have ended it without that plot
That twist, yeah.
It was
I agree.
unnecessary and it just ruined it for me.
But that could also be another message, like how close to your tethered self are you? Like,
Yeah.
what if
Wow.
she just didn't know?
Yeah.
That's true.
I don't. But I took the ending the same way you did. I felt like it was a twist that didn't really make sense.
Yeah.
Given all the stuff that we had seen prior to the ending, but it's like I guess you can interpret it any way you want.
And that's a good thing about Us is it really, you could walk out of
It's
that
about
theater.
us.
It is, but you could interpret the ending and, there's so many different deeper meanings. It's like an onion. You peel away the layers. It's
Like
Right.
an ogre.
not
Like an ogre.
an ogre.
That was a Shrek reference.
I didn't catch that. Yeah. Okay. So we're going what? First purge on that one. Okay. So now we move on to House of a Thousand Corpses versus Evil Dead.
Can we just skip this one? Because I think we know what's going to win.
I think we need to talk about it. I think even we just 1, 2, 3 shut out our answers.
All right, let's do it.
Okay.
Yeah, everybody ready?
Yes.
1, 2, 3. Evil
Evil
Dead
Dead
2.
2.
Definitely.
All right, there we go. Sorry, Rob Zombie. I know you got a new film coming out called 3 from Hell. It starts this month, and it will be available in DVD release, and I'm sure it's going to be really good, but Bruce Campbell rules.
Yes,
Hail
we're
to the
gonna
king,
go.
baby.
Such a good movie. He
Yeah.
cut off his hand.
He cut off his hand, and it said, "Who's laughing now?" Okay.
And Henrietta.
Oh, Henrietta. Someone's in my food cellar.
Dead by Dawn.
Dead by Dawn. Just a great movie.
It's so good.
Yeah, it is. And if you've You need to see Bubba Hotep. You need to see My Name is Bruce. You need to see everything that Bruce Campbell's ever done.
Army of Darkness.
Army of Darkness. Hail to the king, baby. All right, so our last, here we are. This one I might get upset depending on who wins or not. So we're talking.
I think I have an idea.
1978's Halloween versus Scream. Now you're wondering, okay, how did we pick Halloween versus Scream? Halloween was a game changer. There wasn't much American horror. The first real American horror movie we had, I would believe, would be Psycho. And then there was a few movies. There was Black Christmas, which is really cool, which for those people, I'm going to throw some really cool stuff out there. A Christmas Story with Ralphie and the BB gun. Was directed by Bob Clark, who also directed Porky's, that 80s movie where everybody has sex and all that cool stuff. And he also did Black Christmas in 1974, which was about a crazy killer guy hiding out in the attic of a sorority house. So Bob Clark, that everybody loves for A Christmas Story, did a horror movie and an 80s teen sex film. Good for you, Bob Clark.
Way to mix it up.
Yeah, but to me, Halloween was a game changer in the same way that Scream was a game changer, because Halloween started this thing where you could make a low-budget horror movie that was very good, but then everybody started following it and started their own versions, and every movie came out about a killer on a holiday. Happy Birthday to Me, Thanksgiving Day, Arbor Day, whatever, Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
And then by the time you got to the 90s, horror was dead. Horror sucked. And then here comes Scream, and it reinvented the genre. So to me, Scream did do in the 90s what Halloween did in the 70s. So that's why these two films are facing off. So anybody that wants to throw shade on our picks, screw you, start your own podcast. So I'm going to say it. I love Scream. It's a great film. I'm going Halloween. That's my pick.
Solid choice.
That's just it. If you know me, you know I'm picking that. I wear Michael Myers shirts. I love everything. I'm not even going to say it's my favorite film in the series, but there's something scary about that Michael Myers mask that still creeps me out.
Yeah.
When Halloween came out in 78, I didn't see it. I was 8 years old. I saw a commercial of it on TV, and that made such an impact on me that I was terrified of Michael Myers until 8 years later. I finally watched Halloween when I was 16 years old. I was still terrified of that fucking mask. And I still am. That, to me, is the iconic thing of horror movies. I'm getting goosebumps. I'm looking over my shoulder because he may be in the room. Terrifies me.
But he doesn't stand a chance against Jamie Lee Curtis.
That is true. So, anyway, my pick's Halloween. So, let's hear you, Maddie. What do you think?
Personally, I have never been that big of a fan of the Scream movies, so naturally I have to go with Halloween.
Really? Have you seen all of them? You've seen the first three, I know that, I believe.
How many are there in the
series?
There's
four.
Okay,
four.
so I've seen the first three.
Am I correct on that?
Yeah.
I think there's four.
And then there's some like that aren't actually part of the series, but they're like little spin-offs, right?
Okay. Scream doesn't. No.
I'm talking about Halloween.
Oh yeah, there's some spin-off Halloween.
Yeah,
no,
Scream has four.
Just 4 Screams. Okay. Yeah, Halloween. Yeah. We'll do a podcast. I want to do a podcast about Halloween sometime, but that's another story. So, all right. So your pick is
Halloween.
Maddie picks Halloween. Jeff picks Halloween.
T.
So Halloween is obviously the winner, but I like Scream.
Okay.
I just like Scream. I remember being so terrified of Scream. I remember my sister, my cousin, and I watched it.
How old were you when you saw it?
When did it come out?
90-ish.
When did
Scream come out? We're having a technical guy look this up. Scream. I want to say 92, 93. No.
96.
96. I was way off.
Of course, I was not old enough to see it when it first came out, but
okay.
I want to say
you saw
I was
it young.
9 or
ooh.
So, and my younger cousin, my sister, and I, we watched it when we weren't supposed to because it was scary. We were told not to watch it.
Yeah.
And it was so scary. And I still remember being afraid of Scream. And then at the end, when we find out that it was her boyfriend, and Neve Campbell, love her. Just, yes.
She's great.
Yep. Love her in the movie. She's like the character, and the character development over the series of her, she gets so much stronger throughout. I don't know. It's like an iconic movie.
And there's some great I just realized that between how she's like this victim, but later she becomes this strong.
Cindy, I'm like,
she's a Laurie Strode.
You go.
Right? Yeah.
So I'm going to have to go with Scream just because I just remember how scared I was of it. And then at the end, it's like a double whammy because it's like, so this really could happen because this is a person that you know. And it's been people that you know orchestrating this the whole time. So it was scary.
Yeah, you think Halloween could happen, that a guy could escape from a mental institution, and that could happen. But that's even scarier. They could be one of your friends.
Yeah, but it's like just Michael Myers doesn't die. So that's why it's I don't know. But I like Halloween.
Yeah.
I remember being scared of that when I remember the opening scene of Halloween. My sister and I were watching it. Again, we probably shouldn't have been. But I remember the scene where his sister's in her underwear and she's, getting ready and he's just approaching her and she's Michael. And
you said that exactly like Judith Myers. That was great. Yeah.
That movie's scary.
It is. It still holds up. I watch it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we're down to 10 films. What do you guys want to do? You want to keep going? You want to wrap this up and do like a part 2?
Yeah, I think we should do a part 2.
Should we do a part 2?
Yeah, definitely.
You want to do a part 2?
All right.
Okay, so hold on. So we had Hush versus A Quiet Place, and A Quiet Place won. Shutter Island versus Silence of the Lambs. Silence of the Lambs won. With The Mist versus Carrie, The Mist won. Amityville Horror versus The Conjuring, and Amityville kicked The Conjuring's butt. I won't say that, but it beat it. Last House on the Left versus Hard Candy, and our favorite Patrick Wilson and Ellen Page prevailed. Hard Candy wins. Poltergeist versus Insidious. Poltergeist, they're here. This house is clean. And The Burbs versus Lost Boys. We picked The Burbs. Us versus The First Purge. First Purge wins. House of a Thousand Corpses versus Evil Dead. House of a Thousand Corpses did not stand a chance, and Evil Dead kicked its ass. It came, it saw it, chewed bubblegum, bloody blah, 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 blew its head off with a shotgun. Halloween 1978 versus Scream, and we have Halloween 1978. So, eventually we're going to do a part 2 very soon, so we'll have A Quiet Place, Silence of the Lambs, The Mist, Amityville Horror, Hard Candy, Poltergeist, The Burbs, The First Purge, Evil Dead 2, and Halloween. I'm so looking forward to that.
Same.
Yeah. Hey, I really want to say thank you to... It's great to have you back, T.
Yes, it's so great to be back.
It's so great to have you back. And hey, first time on a podcast, our creative director, Maddie.
She did great.
She did do great.
Thanks.
She did awesome. So, hey, this is Idle Chatter with Average Jeff. I'm glad you listened to this first round of Tournament of Terror. We can't wait to bring you the second episode. Please check us out. Twitter, Idle Chat Podcast. Check me out on Facebook with Idle Chatter with Average Jeff. And don't forget, please, please, please check out my website, averagejeff.net, if you want to read all my funny blogs and everything. Until the next time when we get to do this again, this is Idle Chatter, Average Jeff. I'm Average Jeff saying goodnight. Say goodnight, everybody.